It arrived without an army. It carried no swords. It was an invisible enemy that breached the massive walls of the world's first great civilization. The ancient Sumerian texts describe it as an evil wind, a storm that did not blow down buildings, but instead dissolved the people inside them. They wrote that mouths were drenched in blood, heads wallowed in blood, and faces turned pale as the sky. The water became bitter. The soil became poison. For thousands of years, historians called this poetic metaphor for a drought or a plague. But in the late 20th century, a terrifying alternative theory emerged. What if the evil wind wasn't a metaphor? What if it was a literal description of radioactive fallout? When J. Robert Oppenheimer witnessed the first nuclear test in 1945, he famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." He knew he had opened a door that humanity might not be able to close. But there is a fringe theory, a dark, compelling narrative, that suggests that door had been opened before, long, long ago. Today, we are diving into one of the most controversial topics in alternative history. We are looking at the translations of Zecharia Sitchin, the vitrified ruins of the Indus Valley, and the weapon descriptions in the Mahabharata that sound suspiciously like modern atomic warfare. Did our ancestors destroy themselves with technology we are only just rediscovering? Or are we misreading the nightmares of the past? I'm Hostname, and this is the story of the ancient nuclear war. To understand the evil wind, we have to go back to roughly 2024 BC. The Sumerian civilization, the cradle of history, suddenly collapsed. The city of Ur, a bustling metropolis, was decimated. Archaeologists attribute this to the Elamite invasion and severe drought. But when you read the lamentation over the destruction of Ur, the details are unsettling. The texts describe a calamity that fallen upon the land like a cloak. It says, the people, in their own houses, were piled into heaps. But here is the detail that catches the attention of ancient astronaut theorists, the nature of the death. The text claims the people were not killed by weapons of iron. They died where they stood. It says, the people groan, the food and water of the city is tainted. Zecharia Sitchin, the author of The 12th Planet, proposed a radical hypothesis. He argued that the gods of Sumer, the Anunnaki, engaged in a civil war. According to his interpretation of the tablets, these entities used 7 weapons of terror to destroy a spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula. Sitchin claimed that the evil wind was the resulting cloud of radioactive dust. The wind blew eastward, passing over Sumer. The descriptions match the symptoms of acute radiation poisoning. The peeling skin, the hair falling out, the poisoning of the water supply without visible contamination. The text explicitly states that the wind did not touch the walls, yet the people died. If this was an invasion by soldiers, why did the walls remain untouched while the life inside withered? If the evil wind was the fallout, where is the blast zone? For that, we travel east, to the Indus Valley civilization in modern-day Pakistan. Specifically, the city of Mohenjo-Daro. Discovered in the 1920s, this city was incredibly advanced, with plumbing and grid systems. But it also holds a macabre mystery. Excavators found skeletons scattered in the streets. They weren't buried in graves. They were lying as if they had been struck down instantly in the middle of their daily lives. Some were holding hands. There were no signs of scavengers, no signs of sword wounds, just instant death. But the strangest evidence is found in the stones themselves. Travelers and fringe researchers have reported that scattered across the site are vitrified rocks, bricks that have been fused into glass. For clay bricks to vitrify, to turn into glass, they need to be exposed to temperatures in excess of 1,500 degrees Celsius. That is the kind of heat you get from a forge, a volcano, or an atomic blast. Proponents of the ancient nuclear theory point to this vitrification as the smoking gun. They argue it's similar to trinitite, the glassy residue found at the New Mexico nuclear test site in 1945. David Davenport, a researcher who spent 12 years studying ancient Hindu scripts, and the site itself claimed there was an epicenter of destruction about 50 yards wide where everything was crystallized. At this center, the bricks are fused. As you move outward, the damage becomes less severe, exactly consistent with a shockwave. If this was just a fire, as mainstream archaeologists suggest, how did it generate the heat of a sun? The physical evidence is debatable, but the textual evidence is terrifyingly specific. We turn now to the Mahabharata, the great Sanskrit epic of ancient India. Written thousands of years ago, it describes battles between the gods using vimanas, flying machines. but it also describes a weapon called the Brahmastra. Listen to this description from the text. I want you to tell me what this sounds like: a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 1,000 suns, rose in all its splendor. It goes on. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andakas. The aftermath described is even more chilling. The text says that after the weapon was used, the corpses were so burned they were unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without cause, and the birds turned white. To escape this fire, the soldiers threw themselves into streamstow, washed their equipment and their bodies. Hair falling out, nails falling off, washing equipment to remove an invisible poison. These are specific symptoms of radiation sickness, symptoms that humanity did not officially discover until 1945. How did a Nansient writer, thousands of years ago, hallucinate the exact biological effects of a nuclear bomb? It is a seductive theory. It explains the unexplainable. But we have to be honest with the counter-evidence. Mainstream science has answers for these mysteries. The vitrification at Mohenjo-Daro? Geologists argue it is consistent with intense, localized fires in pottery kilns, burning of wattle and daub structures, not a citywide blast. The skeletons? Modern analysis suggests they weren't all from the same time period. They were burials that were exposed by erosion, not victims of a single instant event. And as for radiation, no ancient site has ever shown isotopic anomalies consistent with a fission explosion when tested with modern equipment. Yet, the texts remain. The evil wind that dissolves the flesh. The iron thunderbolt that shines like 1,000 suns. Perhaps these are just the nightmares of a pre-scientific people trying to explain volcanoes, meteor strikes, or plagues. Or perhaps history is a cycle, and we are merely relearning how to build the fires that burned our ancestors. What do you think? Is the Brahmastra a myth or a memory? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to explore more forbidden history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Until next time, keep watching the skies.